Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Alan Cochrane. You can text us on 81215. You can, and we'd like you to. Or you can follow us on Twitter at Frank on the Radio. And that's that done. So, I was off last week.
You were.
You sound
I missed
rested.
you. I missed your little Birmingham smile.
Yeah, I was in Cornwall for a week.
How was it for you?
Lovely. I was staying in one of Rick Stein's cottages.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Careful of those TV chefs.
Are you familiar with Rick Stein? I spent the entire week. They said, sometimes he just, turns up. I spent the whole week thinking he was the one with the spiky gelled up hair.
No. That's
no.
Gary Rhodes.
That's Gary Rhodes. He likes
me.
working out, Gary Rhodes.
I said, has he still got that spiky hair? And the people were looking at me in a confused fashion. So it's a good job he didn't turn up, because I would have said, what's happened to your spiky? Oh, it would have been
Rick
awful.
Stein's the other one that loves fish, and he's got a slightly high-pitched voice,
Yes.
so he's a bit like, oh,
And I went to school with his nephew.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think if you eat a lot of fish, the voice goes up
Oh.
a semitone.
Oh, fish. That's
Yeah.
my Rick Stein impression,
You ate
everybody.
Frank ate bone marrow last night, and he didn't like it.
You know when you hear seals going,
They've eaten a lot of fish.
the fish
Yeah,
thing.
I see the
I don't know,
logic
it does
now.
something to your larynx. Yeah, it was. It was nice. I don't really know Cornwall, but it's beautiful. I thought I wear a suit and tie all the time.
All the time now?
You do
Yeah.
these days.
Well, even on holiday? Did
No,
you
I
take
didn't
some?
on holiday.
No.
What look
On
did
holiday?
you go for?
Shorts and T-shirt.
I went like, T-shirt and stuff.
Sarong.
And it really...
Did you wear a sarong
I
on
didn't wear a
holiday?
sarong. No, I could have worn one as a... If I'd known David Beckham was going to retire, I would have worn one as a homage. But the great thing about wearing a suit and tie every day is that when you go on holiday and you don't wear one, you feel like you're on holiday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you think, no, don't have to do that extra knotting. Yeah.
You didn't go England fan, did you, Frank?
3/4 length short.
Oh, no.
No.
But it's almost like, when people say you go indoors and you've got a coat on, they say take that off, you won't feel the benefit when you go out. I really felt the benefit of not wearing a suit.
All right.
So, it's yet another plus.
Although I have to say, when you come back to work, you don't have a boss saying you must wear a suit, so you could just continue that through your...
Yeah,
But then you've got like
this
1,000
is work.
wasted
This is
suits.
work, not a holiday.
This is work.
And that's the great thing
Imagine
about
if
it.
Frank started insisted we wore corporate clothes. like Daisy had to dress like someone in The Apprentice.
But you dress you're always smart. You're what I would say, like the old upside down Kate. You're well turned out.
Oh. You never fully dressed without a smile.
I tell you what I did have. Have you ever had... It's this... I don't know, I nearly said, is this just me, which is what bad comedians say. What they do a joke and it dies and they say, just me then. So I don't want to lapse into that. But, have you ever done this when you stand on the beach and you're sort of you're paddling and you look at the sea and as the sea, is it ebbs when it goes backwards?
Yeah.
As it retracts, as it retreats, you feel like that it's still and you're going backwards. Have you ever felt
Yes,
that?
I've experienced
All right,
that sensation.
I felt like I was hurtling backwards. It frightened me. Honestly, I got a bit bilious.
It sometimes happens when trains next to you move and you don't. You know that
I'm wondering
feeling?
the reason I'm bringing this up. It's a quest for our readers. I'd like to know if there's a word for it. There's got to be a word, and it's not just this. There must be a word for when something's moving and you're still and you feel like you're moving.
Yes.
There's got to be a word for it. So if you know that, please text it in, and you win a banana.
It's one of the more obscure commercial radio textings.
Yeah, but I really want to know that, because the next time, say if it was called matribalism.
Very good.
I'd love to turn around on the beach and say, I'd have a sit down. I've had a bit of a metrobalistic experience.
You
And
say
people
it so
say,
confidently.
what does that mean? And I'll say, well, look, that's the phenomenon when... And then I look like a great guy. They'll say, no wonder you usually wear a suit. You're a smart character. And there was an incident with my child, which... which was I'll tell you after this.
Frank Skinner
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
New listeners, brace yourselves. But my son is called. He's won this week actually, and he's called Buzz, B-U-Z-Z, and here's his music. So we were in Cornwall and we went to a farm shop, and outside the farm shop there was chickens. So I took him over to have a look at the chickens while the ladies shopped, and he was interested. And there was a big cockerel.
Oh.
Yeah, and I thought, obviously
there always is.
I got a bit nostalgic for the show, so I took him over and we squatted down right next to the cockerel. And he was a fine creature, and I could see Buzz was fascinated by him, because that strange head jolt that they do.
I saw it this morning.
Yeah.
And then. Unexpected. Well, I suppose it shouldn't have been unexpectedly. He went, and Buzz burst into tears.
Oh yeah.
But he cried in a way I've never heard him cry before. Because usually he goes, and starts crying.
Yeah,
but
I've seen that one.
But he started it a bit. It went like this. Oh. And it was not a million miles from Oliver Hardy falling down a flight of stairs. Whoa!
Sounds a bit like your Gershwin yawn. I think he's been picking it up from you.
Well, the thing was, I took him away. I took him into the shop, and then inside the shop, we heard, and he still went. Oh! And on the car, we were leaving in the car, and I heard. And he still went, miles away. So he really? He didn't take to it. Oh, no, at all.
Might be useful when he's older, though. Just for discipline purposes.
Yeah, just play him that.
It's a Pavlovian response.
Or getting him up in the morning.
Yeah.
It's
nice that it turns out that he's got different crying for every scenario.
Yeah.
But
you're now going to have to see what he can possibly cry like for various scenarios.
You need to knock it on the head, though. You don't want him as an adult crying every time he wakes up in the morning if he lives on a farm.
Well, it might get him an interview with Piers Morgan. So I just started thinking about, and I'd love to hear from our readers on this, what the things that frightened us when we was kids. I don't mean like, the dead.
No.
I think we were all
the
frightened.
Undead.
Yeah, we're all frightened of, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But things like, par exemple, if I got frightened, I used to go into my mum and dad's bed when I was a little kid, go into their room. And they had this wardrobe. And when my eyes grew accustomed to the light, the grain of the wood on the wardrobe doors looked like horrible demons with long, spindly arms and fingers. And I was frightened to look out the blankets.
Sure it wasn't a window out onto the street?
It was our Keith slept in a glass case. You'd be listening to that, you'd be absolutely furious.
Hi, our Keith.
Can I tell you a story about our Keith?
You always can.
I spoke to our Keith this week, and he was saying that he'd been poorly, and I think he went to hospital actually.
Oh.
And this it didn't happen this week, so he's better now. But they said to him, he said to me, I don't think I'm not interested in medicine and all that. He said, I think it's a load of rubbish. He said, I think you can drink your way out of most illnesses. Which is an interesting theory. So he said, it's a waste of time. And he has always had that attitude. He has no interest in doctors, medicine, So, anyway, they took him in. They said, what's the name of your doctor? And he said, Dr. whatever it was, Dr. Matthew Jones.
Dr. Feelgood.
So he said the name of the doctor, and they said, right. And they looked at the records. They said, he died 8 years ago. And they checked the records, and our Keith had not visited a GP for 17 years. I love it. Brilliant. So that's what frightened me as a kid. Not our Keith, our parents' wardrobe, and also girls' toilets.
Well, I think I've mentioned this before to you, but Lou Reed scared me as a child. Specifically the Transformer album cover, because he looks a bit like Frankenstein's monster.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think he looks like a big cuddly panda on the cover of...
No, Lou Reed was my bogeyman.
That's an interesting one. I'll tell you about the ladies' toilets in a minute.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
Well, we're talking about the things that frightened us as a child, based on something that happened to my child recently. I should point out, but before we go into our readers' thoughts, that the girls' toilet on my first day at school, no, my second day at school, some of the big girls, I would have been 5 and they would have been 10, 11, dragged me into the girls' toilets.
Oh, God.
And then told me that the police would be coming to my house because I'd been in the girls' toilets.
No.
Well, that's not why they were coming to your house.
No.
Oh, Keith had been up to no good.
No, it was. It's interesting though. I was really terrified. It seemed like a completely alien, different world.
And do you have a fear of authority as well? The police. Do you think there's some kind of weird police state if you go into the wrong place that they're after you? Has it left permanent damage?
No, I think it probably taught me a valuable lesson early on, and what a pity some of our other older male celebrities weren't given similar advice. Anyway.
I loved that on the couch moment.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Loved it.
But it was actually terrifying, just the idea of being in the wrong place and not being able to... I remember I had a little coat with a dog bone buttons, little tiny dog bones.
That sounds rather fetching.
Yeah. My mum made it from dog bones. So what about you? Oh, Crick, keeping a low profile, like nothing frightened you ever?
No, loads of stuff frightened me as a kid. In fact, my family, if I get together with like aunties and uncles and my mum in the room, they all gather and laugh at the fact that I was so afraid of heights as a kid that I turned round and drooped backwards off a rug.
Off a thick pile
rug down onto a normal floor level.
You're kidding me.
Apparently that's how scared as a kid I was, so they always talk about that.
That is vertigo gone crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And so you can imagine when we were on a day trip to Blackpool and I got put on a donkey,
I thought you were going to say the tower.
No. The donkey.
That's more my parents' style, Frank.
The donkey was terrifying because it was moving and it was a height. And it's an animal again. You've got so many different like fear factors involved.
How tall are you?
I'm now 6'3" ish.
So you've got over it.
Well, only as far as 6'3".
Do you still have the heights thing? Though?
I wouldn't like. Yeah, I don't like heights now. But
I tell you, I was in a mosaicist's balcony once at Westminster Cathedral, and they're tiny, flimsy balconies. It's where the person who does the mosaic sort of stands for, and that's the only time I've ever felt that thing that people say when like their inner ear goes into turmoil.
No.
Anyway, it's not about us. It's about the readers.
Yeah.
I'm okay on rugs now. I just want you all to know that I'm fine. I'm fine going from rug to carpet now. I take that in my stride, I would say.
Well, I mean, otherwise you could never have got on stage. I mean, you'd be terrified on a dais of any kind. What do they have to say?
Well, we've had quite a few.
Yeah.
223, one of our readers. Hi, Frank, Emily, and Mr. Cockrell Doodle Doo. Up until my early teenage...
No, at home, Baz has just gone,
Up until my early teenage years, I was terrified of vinyl records being played at a slower speed than they should. My older brother used to regularly take great delight in suddenly switching the speed and making me burst into tears. That's from Sharon in Cumbria.
That's a brilliant one. It used to be the thing with that, because it used to be on those old record players, there used to be a speed setting that was 16.
Was there?
And what did that play? But we used to put the 45s at 16, and it had that kind of kind of thing, so I couldn't see why that would be frightening.
281 has texted Beaker out of the Muppets show. Still terrifies me today.
I don't remember. Which one was Beaker?
Beaker, he's got sort of a downturned mouth and quite a big head, hasn't he? If it's the one I'm thinking of.
He sounds
That's
hideous.
Beaker, isn't it?
Is he the Foreign Secretary?
He says, Beaker out of the Muppet show still terrifies me today. I am 40.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can
Saying
get
I am
over that.
40 terrifies me.
Yeah, it's no danger of you ever saying that.
No. 479, I had an incredible Hulk annual, which my cousin was scared of. When she came to my house, I used to open it at the double-page spread of him transforming from a man to a Hulk. And she'd cry and run away every time. That's from Jane. I was a horrible child, she says.
We've got a lot. They're more unusual than they thought. I thought people would be saying, "Oh, I was frightened of dogs and stuff." But this is.
I had a poster on my wall that at night, similar to the knot in the wood in your parents' room, the shadows of the poster would scare me. And looking back on it now, I think, why didn't we take it down off the wall?
What was on the poster?
I can't even remember that.
Was
I can
it the
remember
shadows? No, that's weird. To actually put something up to frighten
It's
you.
really odd, isn't it? I wonder if I'd never confessed that I was scared of it.
I think it's just because it was so high.
Maybe.
Maybe you thought, what about if this fell off at night and I stood on it? I'd be raised up from the linoleum.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Some more scared readers.
Although just before we do the scared ones, I've got info for you from 398, 16 RPM for voice, e.g. abdication speech.
That's why I used to listen to my...
Can I say that's a top-notch EG?
It really is.
Abdication. I cannot go on without the love, help of the woman I love.
I used to have one of those, a Dracula record I used to listen to on that.
Yeah?
It was about Van Helsing, that's all I remember. There was crackling noises on it. Frank, 214, read childhood fears. I was petrified of electric blankets. When I went to stay with my nan when I was little, I used to share her bed, and she told me I'd kill us both if I wet the bed.
You can see
I
the
still
logic.
can't sleep in the bed with one.
She said she'd kill you both if you wet the bed. I'll kill you and then turn the gun on myself.
It's all got a bit Roger Moore.
Yeah, but do people still have electric blankets?
I think they do, yeah.
Daisy's nodding.
Vigorously.
Have you got one?
No, my sister who lives in Scotland has one.
Oh, if people in Scotland, obviously, but I mean...
They still have spangles back there.
Well, it's colder up there as well, that's fair enough. By the way, did anyone explain about my phenomenon of feeling like I'm moving when I'm standing still and something else is moving?
Well, yeah, but I'm not convinced by it.
Okay.
There was a word...
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
What is
try
it?
this out for us. Somatographic illusion.
Somatographic.
This has been tweeted by Ben Will.I.Ams.
Okay.
He says he doesn't sound a reliable individual with that
Well,
moniker. Somatographic illusion is usually the sense of pitching up when accelerating, but it could be the same process.
Pitching up when accelerating.
And Annie QPR says, I've Googled for you, but I've got nothing.
No,
Well, that's helpful. I like that one.
What I'm interested in is I do find that helpful because if there's no word for it, there's a gap in the market.
Gap in the market.
Yeah. For the phenomenon, in case you missed this bit, I stood on the beach, the sea was moving, I felt like the sea was still and I was moving. There must be somatographic. There needs to be a word like move. Move, not moving.
Queasiness, yeah.
Not movarianism.
Sasha Kennedy, I was scared.
Sasha Kennedy, what happened to her?
I was scared of Frank Muir, she says.
Muir?
I had nightmares where he walks chasing me in a pink suit and bow tie, and his choice of murder weapon was a hacksaw.
Really? In case you don't know Frank Muir, he was a sort of writer and stuff. He used to be on a programme called Call My Bluff, where people would lie. You know,
She said,
in fact, it was basically, would I lie to you? Come to think of it.
She said it was, in his lispy voice, he'd say, I'm coming to get you, Sasha.
Yeah, he did have that very lispy, sort of posh voice, and he was a Dickie Bow man, when there were no Dickie Bow men.
He was.
There's also a fair few texts. I'm not sure how you'll feel about these, Frank, but I was absolutely petrified of the Daleks as a small child. I loved Doctor Who, but the Daleks were just too much for me, and I used to hide behind the settee. I think it was the voice that really got to me.
There actually is someone who hid behind the settee, because that's the
So
sort
they
of...
say.
That's the cliché.
I don't know if they are
I say that's the cliché about Doctor Who fans.
Yeah,
People
and a few people I was petrified of the Doctor Who theme music. Have never watched an episode, so they're losing potential viewers just with the scary music.
It's in the top 3 great theme tunes of all time.
According to you, or just generally
just
accepted wisdom?
According to me. I've been entitled to my own opinion. I work in the music business.
Alongside what? Juliet Bravo?
I do, I'm on here, aren't I?
I work in the music.
I don't even remember. Juliet Bravo.
Juliet Bravo was good theme music, I seem to remember.
Well, Nugget was scared of Z-Cars, he says.
No.
Z-Cars theme.
Really?
I think that was Nugget, yeah.
What is that called? There's a name for the Z-Cars theme. Oh, I've forgotten it. That's the sort of trivia I used to have at my fingertips when I was a young man.
Well, there you go.
But I know it goes blah, 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 blah. You can record that and use it maybe as a ringtone, anyone. I might be glad of that. It's a bit of a treat. Public Eye, of course, is the best theme music ever.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
You know that strange sensation you were describing? Not the one you were talking about off air, that was disgusting.
Oh, come on.
But apparently, Wayne Muir, I don't know if he's a relative.
A Frank Muir who
possibly.
terrified... Yeah.
Call me Wayne. This is called vection, with the type Frank describes called linear vection.
Linear vection?
Is that what people mean when they say they're vexed? Are they just abbreviating vection?
No.
Glenn Bateman says it's called vertical illusory self-motion.
Well, get your story straight. I think there's a gap here. What about... If you get the Doppler effect when a siren goes past or something.
Oh, yeah.
That's the Doppler effect, isn't it? Could we not call it the Skinner effect? As I feel... I haven't exactly discovered it, but I've identified it as something which needs naming.
Just go around naming things after you.
Look,
willy-nilly.
We've got a standing army here with our readers. We can get them to introduce it.
But I can't help but think that the Skinner effect should really be something else that you've done to the world. I don't know what I'll think about that.
No, but there's things I don't want to be associated.
Exactly. I think you might be cherry-picking what you want to be remembered for.
Exactly. I am doing that, but, we all do that. I mean, Hawley of Hawley's Comet fame...
Oh, yeah.
Good pronunciation, Frank.
Yeah, thanks. Had a relationship with a goat. But,
you're kidding.
Yeah, but obviously, that's not what he wanted to be named after. So, when I say had a relationship, I don't mean... I mean, vection does seem to be the most popular. Yeah, I will, and I'll tell you who I'm going to use to escort us out of this is DB, David Beckham, because we haven't talked about this, guys. Oh, that's showbiz.
Yeah, short memories.
Yeah, oh, David Beckham.
Yes.
Yes, he's retired.
First Sir Alex, now him. I think they had a little deal going. Why did they retire so soon?
But you say that, first Sir Alex, now him. Wouldn't it be, if I could have take you back now, if I'd got a TARDIS and we could go back to the World Cup in, was it 98? When we played Argentina and Michael Owen got that wonder goal, and then David Beckham kicked someone and people were hanging effigies of him.
Yeah.
Would you believe that several years later, when we're talking about retirements, we've forgotten that Michael Owen is retiring at the end of the season because Beckham's is so big? Or about that was one of those who'd have thought moments. And people say to me, I bet you never thought, did you, when you was at school in West Midlands, that you'd end up having a television? I said, well, no, I did think that. And then people hate you, but I did think, I thought all the time. Sorry.
He did his exit interview with Gary Neville.
His exit interview?
Yes,
I didn't know he was being killed.
That's what it's called.
From a Swiss clinic?
That's what it's called when you leave a company, an exit interview.
Really?
But I like that Gary Neville is turning into a sort of David Frost figure. Why is he doing interviews?
Do you think there'll be a film called Frost Beckham about that interview?
That's about his highlights in the 90s.
You know that Paxman interview where he asked the same question 13 times? It was like that.
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
David Beckham, people's frightened children phenomenon, the Skinner effect.
There's nobody emailed in that they were scared of David Beckham, if that's what you're asking.
No, but Mark said when I was about 6 years old, sitting in the garden in the summertime, I could hear the crows in the trees. My grandmother told me that they knew who I was and were constantly calling my name. That did it for me.
Mark.
So all I hear now is Mark, Mark. I'm now 43. That's Mark in Dubai.
Today,
lovely warm-hearted grandmother.
I love all these horrible nanas.
Happy birthday, Mark. And it's bad luck that your gran had recently seen Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds before you had that conversation.
I like the idea, because it makes Gran sound a bit more magical.
Right.
You know, that
makes her sound a bit witchy.
No, it makes her sound like she knows the old ways,
Oh,
if you know
yeah.
what I'm saying.
My one knew the old ways, the off licence. Glenn Bateman, The Skinner Effect, Human Influence on Central Reservations in the late 20th century.
Yes, that could have worked.
Yeah.
Human influence or human effluence. So anyway, David Beckham.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
you did. Am I right that before we went to that last track, you did a David Beckham is thick joke?
I nearly did, and then I reversed out
What
of it.
happened to that? Was a lovely nostalgic moment. People never do David Beckham is thick
Who's
joke.
taking his place now?
I don't want to. I think we've realised that he's clever and it's fine.
You know,
I
well, he
think
isn't
that's what's
clever.
happened. All right,
I think we've
I've over-egged the pudding a bit there, but
I
you
think
know
what
I
he
mean.
did, he got so popular that we couldn't do David Beckham. I mean, he was the one. You know, I've talked before on this show about in comedy, there's people that sit in the fat seat, people who sit in the sleep with a lot of women seat, people that sit in the thick seat. Who's in the thick seat now, then?
I don't know. Wayne Rooney, perhaps?
Maybe.
I don't know if he is really, but anyway, Beckham is out of it. So he's retiring from football.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Brilliant.
he'll continue to do things like do adverts for supermarket chains, as I saw in the paper this morning.
Lots of sport.
Frank, I've just thought of someone else who's in the
sport-based
thick seat. Donna Rare. That was a retro thick seat.
ones. Oh, yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, she was. But, Frank, have you met him, Beckham?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's met them
Worked
all.
with them all, hasn't he?
He said to me, I'd done him in a sketch a few times, you know, played him in a sketch. And he said to me, and I sort of looked a bit like him. You know the way Alistair McGowan sounds like him,
Yeah.
but he looks like, well, the sort of person who was called him Mark. He looks like a crow made up to look like David Beckham. And I mean this in the nicest possible way. I have a great admiration for Alistair McGowan.
I'm interested to hear how you got yourself to look like David Beckham. So,
Extraordinary statement.
No, we had a very good
Extraordinary.
makeup woman, and he said to me, God, you must have a hell of a makeup woman if she can make you look like me.
Good for him.
Which I thought was a brilliant opening line.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something else about David. He come up to me, he had a white suit, white shirt.
Oh, my God.
You know, he looked like an angel. And I had a friend who was obsessed with him, a female friend, really obsessed with him. And she was sitting on a table and hadn't seen that he was there, hadn't turned up. And I said, I won't name her because she's a married woman now with children, but I said, let's call her Liz. So I said, there's a friend of mine over there. She's mad about you. If you went over and said hello, honestly, you would. And he walked over and he stood behind. It's like he'd done it before. He tapped her on the shoulder. She turned around and the look on her face was just golden. And he said, hi, Liz, I'm David. And he bent down and kissed her on the cheek. And it was like a lottery win. It was, so yeah, a nice bloke, but one of those people who makes me think, how much money do you need?
Frank
Skinner
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean, Alan Cochrane. You can text us on 81215 or follow us on Twitter at Frank on the Radio. We were talking about David Beckham's retirement. My point about how much money do people need is that David Beckham will advertise more or less anything. And does he not think, I don't know, I've got more money than I can spend and that my children can spend. Maybe I'll just do nice work now.
I'll tell you what, now that he has retired, he must have a wardrobe, like a big cupboard in his house, just full of like razor blades and underpants and crisps, everything that he's advertised over the years.
Crisps?
You get a lot of demons on those wardrobes. Frank could be scared.
Smokey Beckham.
Yeah, but Frank, can I just, as a counter-argument, I would like to say, let's compare you and him. You will always be funny, we hope. However, no, you will.
Some people
to a
say
certain
you're
degree.
already looking back.
You will always be funny. He won't always be at this top level, so he needs to get in and make as much cash as he can.
But even so, one can only spend... So, you know, when you're on holiday in France and you see Harrison Ford advertising an insurance company or something like that,
yeah.
and you think, how much money do you don't need any more money than you've got. Just a really nice work, you know, that's fulfilling. Don't do adverts.
I'd like to see Beckham just not care about his appearance now that he's sort of knocked it on the head.
I would hate to see that.
Do you know what?
I would hate it.
To use your phrase, I would like to see him now just pull the ripcord and in 5 years' time just
BFM.
like Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull.
Go a bit Razor Ruddock.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't that be...
that'd be brilliant. I would so respect him if he did
if
that.
he ended
Razor
up
in his straining polo shirts.
in 6 years' time in, like, the Big Brother house, really fat, not caring,
and
hairy.
Victoria does it as well. They really become like a big...
Be really fun,
rough couple. He starts going to the shopping centre in England shirt. That'd be fantastic. No, I'd respect him for that. He has always, to be fair, he's always kept a slightly loose lip.
You got you in that lip.
No, I've always recommended him for this. A beautiful man, but he's had the wisdom of the Islamic rug maker. You know those that leave
the imperfection,
the deliberate fault, so that they don't affront God with their arrogance. He's had the loose lip, saying to God, I know I'm not perfect. I'm allowed to. I give up the lip.
So he's perfect. I met him, Cochrane.
Have you?
Yeah.
So out of the three of us, I'm the one
Cochrane?
who hasn't.
Yeah.
Who hasn't?
It's a bit schoolyard. You're going to drag him into the girls' toilet.
I meant to say Cochrane, and then it was Cochrane. I thought I quite like it if the cap fits.
Yeah.
It does. That is my name.
But I felt I was green room lurking.
I wondered how that was going. Go on.
I was green room lurking. You know, I sometimes do that,
Yes.
Frank. And I was bowled over. I didn't know what to say to him. He shook my hand and went, "Hello, I'm David."
Yeah.
I know.
I focused on the lip. It meant it was less frightening then. Do you know what I mean?
Really?
It's overwhelming.
That's what the
otherwise.
lip's for, to stop people just breaking down at his...
I almost cried because I said to
Really?
my friend Jane, I said, it's too depressing to meet someone like that, to know that I'll never be intimate with him. I can't bear it.
Oh, blimey.
I found it really depressing. She said, "How do you know?" I said, "Well, no, because, you know, you never know what's going to happen in the future."
I mean, you're pen pals now, though, aren't you? I mean, it's not intimacy, but it's still contact, isn't it? That's nice.
If ever I meet Alanis Morissette, I imagine I'll be in a similar state.
That'd be ironic, wouldn't it?
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
Laura Gibbs has
Does she? Thanks for the tip.
She's tweeted us. She says, "How come you have email corner, but you don't read out your address? That's in your email address. But you do mention your Twitter, text, pager, telex,
It's a good
etc."
point.
Yeah.
It is a good point.
Well,
Why is that, Daisy?
That's a mistake on my part.
Oh, it's a mistake on your part. Okay.
Oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened on the show. To
Well,
email the show,
Heads will roll.
You just go to the Absolute website.
just
mate.
visit the Absolute website, I love doing that bit, absoluteradio.co.uk/contact.
Slick.
I'm going to stop you doing that, Jeff Lloyd. I meant to show. Email corner. Well, we have arrived in Email Corner.
Can I just ask, how long has the show been running that this is the first time we've announced the email address? This feels like an oversight.
You know, but it takes a
Epic
while
proportions.
to, you know, you can't expect us to hit the ground running. The show's been going a little over 4 years. We've just given out the email address.
Small
And have
steps, innit?
email corner as a regular section on our
I
show.
like it. It's a sort
been
of
getting
Greta
through
Garbo
anyway.
approach to commercial radio.
It sort of proves if you build it, they
Non-stop.
will come. They've been getting through anyway. We've been doing email.
Do you know what I think it is,
Space.
Cochrane?
Yes.
It's a bit like
Dino.
when you meet a man. Some men say this, you see, Frank. If you meet an alpha male, never give him your number, because if he likes you enough, Daisy's nodding viciously, he should be able to track you down.
Really?
Yeah, and
You
the
see,
alpha
that's an
male...
alpha man, not a bounty hunter. Well, yeah, you could argue that maybe now we've spoon-fed them the email address. There'll be all sorts of idiots sending in emails, whereas
Yeah,
the
exactly.
standard of emails in the past, though there were only, say, 2 a week, were brilliant. you know, it's all about quality, not quantity. And yes, I have used that line before, and what of it? Okay, we're in email corner.
So shall I read an email?
No, let's not bother.
Shall we just move on?
Now we've broken all our usual email. Let's get to email corner, and I'll play the flute for an hour.
Hi, Frank, Alan and Emily. I'm a 20-year-old journalism student from Christchurch and love listening to your show. I first tuned in a few months ago and it's become a staple for the morning commute. I think a good idea for a text-in is, by the way, I'd love it when people suggest ideas for the show. It saves us so much time.
They know what we're like.
I think a good idea for a text-in is, what interesting cups do you have?
How dare you?
Me and my flatmates. Now, here's where I think it becomes interesting.
That is, can I say that is a good idea?
It is. It's excellent.
You see, this is what I mean. If we were giving out the email address, people would say, what about favourite colour as a text?
Yeah.
Which isn't so good. Blue.
Green.
Mine's blue.
Pink.
Is it? Interesting. Well, it turns out it's more interesting than I thought it would be.
How odd that there's no overlap there.
It's all gone very snooker table. I love it.
It's ours, yeah.
Me and my flatmates live next to abandoned houses where we have recovered numerous...
Lovely.
What a wasteland.
Is it our key?
Please. He's got a lovely house.
Me and my flatmates live next to abandoned houses where we have recovered numerous quirky cups, some hand-painted, one shaped as Homer Simpson's head and one with a UN logo on it.
UN, I'd like a UN mug.
Keep well.
I don't know.
Benjamin Ryan, I love Keep Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
But also that I'm not sure how happy I would be about recovered cups from abandoned houses.
They're glazed.
But are they washed?
Oh, they're glazed.
Do you
Yeah,
think
but you
he's
would wash
scrubbing
them. But as long as they're non-porous, it's...
You're sure?
yeah.
You'd be fine with that?
I mean, I wouldn't eat, say, a terracotta crock pot. I wouldn't use one of those after I found
with
one
the
way.
cracks
But glazed, be fine.
Okay.
That's why when I went to China, I didn't lick the terracotta army.
Got to have a rule.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I won't pretend I wasn't tempted, but I held back. Anyway, we got to... we haven't even got... I've got some good mugs. But that is a good... You see, that's what I mean. That's someone who gets the show. I've got a Ricky Martin.
You haven't.
I have, yeah. It's a nice one as well.
Your very promotional mug, Frank.
Pardon?
Your very promotional mug.
Yeah, I've got a
Yeah.
lot.
I think she
actually.
might be implying that you're stingy there.
No.
That's usually the sort of attack
No, I
get.
paid for this. I bought it.
You bought the Ricky Martin one?
I
Bought and paid for.
I flew to Barcelona in the 90s to see Ricky Martin live. And I bought a mug. No, I don't want to talk about it.
I was going to say.
You and John Barrowman. It was a lovely trip.
I thought, yeah. Frankie and Johnny. And I've
Love
got...
to see that film.
I've got... on my last tour, they taught me into the first time ever to promotional material, which I've always been very anti on tours.
Yeah.
I always think it's such a massive rip-off. But such was the profit margin. I said yes. I don't feel good about that, but I'm owning up. I thought it was a lot of tat. Nevertheless, there was mugs, and they said, what should we put on the mug? And I said, why don't you put one of my jokes? And I suggested a joke, which I will not repeat on air.
Oh, God.
Filthy.
Yeah, it's a joke I now feel embarrassed at the thought of. And it turns out I've got 50 mugs with it on. And do you know,
this is blue period.
honestly, I cannot drink out of one of those mugs. I
Can't you?
No.
What are they? I'll have one of those.
Yeah,
You're welcome. I'll bring you one each in.
Along with the Frank Skinner umbrella.
The Frank Skinner umbrella is, yes.
You've not got a Frank Skinner umbrella.
Yeah, did
you
I not
have?
tell you? I went out when it was raining and didn't
Have you got more
realise.
than one? I'd have one of them as well.
Well, you'll have one of anything, let's face it.
Actually, I was just thinking, shall we have next week as merchandise week?
Yeah, exactly.
I've got an Absolute Radio mug.
Have
you got one of
you?
those?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
I've got a couple of
I've
those.
also got a black Playboy. It's more of a tankard. A matte
Playboy
black
tankard.
tankard affair. That's for my special gentleman friends.
I've got a Last of the Summer wine mug.
Have you?
Hello?
No, we heard
Yeah,
you. I
it's
just
still
couldn't.
going.
I just found that extraordinary.
Yeah, my
that
girlfriend
admission.
always says that is their favourite mug of our collection.
Really?
Well, I had a bit of a tragedy the week.
Who's it got on it then? All of them.
Every one of them in a tiny cartoon form.
Oh,
Not that well drawn. But, and it's a slightly smaller mug than normal, like, it's for the elderly.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
I had a lovely mug which my mother-in-law broke a couple of weeks ago. It was John Wayne Airport.
Oh,
Black with the Duke in gold on it.
I don't like it, my black mug.
No?
No.
I like that. Then you're not... So, you know when you take one out to the dishwasher and it's got the brown ring on the bottom of it, you think, oh, no, I've got to go scour it for it. With a black one, you don't know. And what you don't know won't hurt you.
I've got a good Laurel and Hardy one that I'm very fond of. That's one of my favourite mugs.
This is great radio, then.
I think it is. I've also got 3 of those massive Sport Direct mugs that you get when you buy something on.
One of those.
Oh my God, they're enormous. They're too big, if anything.
I've got a Tony Blair mug where when you put hot water in it,
I've got a combine harvester.
His nose grows to suggest that you know that Blyer thing they used
You've
to
got a
say.
satire mug.
Yeah, I've got 2 satire mugs. Have I got news for you, Nick Clegg? And it says the Downing Street mug. It's got a picture of Nick Clegg.
Oh, wow.
Enough mug talk. But
Okay.
it was a good... I think it's a good...
I've got one for having run a 10k that I sometimes
Enough
give to fat
mug
guests.
talk, boys.
I'll tell you what started happening in our house on the domestic front. I noticed my girlfriend has become rather gong-ho about the cutlery sections in the drawer.
What do you mean?
The
Oh, is she mixing and matching?
Spoons in with forks in with knives. The other day I went through and put them all back in there right.
Has it been a quiet week?
No, it's just I felt bad about
It's
it.
like that
after I
character in in A Beautiful Mind.
No, but it mattered to me that they were separated.
Okay.
Of course, this is probably how apartheid started.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We've had an email. You know, you were searching for a new word for that feeling of standing on the beach and the sea moving out and you remaining still but thinking that...
or you're moving. Like when a train pulls out and you
yes.
think you're moving and it's moving. Yes.
Bernard from Beckenham.
Bernard from Beckenham, I love that.
Who's got a satisfying alliterative name.
Yeah.
How about Yvonne? Move spelt backwards.
That's good.
See what he's done?
That's good.
Yeah.
Yvonne.
Oh, it's good work, all right.
I like that.
Make no mistake.
And also, it sounds like if you can imagine a website where people bought sick, it'd be called Yvonne. But I'm not saying that such a website should exist.
All websites exist. There probably is.
There probably is one, yeah. But it hasn't got such a good name.
No.
So,
we've also had Richard Eaton says, in the early 80s, my dressing gown hanging on the bedroom door always looked like a werewolf in the dawn light, which scared me.
I've had that again. I've had that with a hanging coat and stuff. Or a white shirt. Sometimes I'll put a white shirt in an adjacent room in case I wake up and think it's a ghost.
Do you remember the television programme Beauty and the Beast that was popular?
I do, indeed.
I was in episode 3.
No.
It's the candlestick.
My youngest brother, inexplicably, became scared of showing his bare feet to Vincent, the Beast
I remember
of said
Vincent.
programme, and so at the end he would cover up his feet because obviously he was in his pyjamas and his dressing gown watching it all cosy, and he would put a cushion over his feet because he didn't want Vincent to see his feet.
Why?
It's weird.
Was Vincent into feet or something?
No, it's just one of those weird things.
I hated that,
kids
Vincent.
Kids get scared of. It's just odd.
I like that you remembered his name.
That is a
Vincent.
bizarre one, isn't it?
Yeah, really weird.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Strange what you're frightened of.
We've had an email into the show as well from Carl Young. No, it's not Carl Young. Hi, Alan and Frank, and Emily, of course. Oh, cheeky.
Yeah.
I've got top bill in there.
I would like to thank you, Alan.
Emily, little more than a postscript.
I would like to thank you for a great show in Kendal on Wednesday evening. I want to personally apologise for the annoying drunk lady in the crowd who wouldn't shut up. No idea who she was, but we're not all like that here. You handled her well and made us laugh at the same time.
You've, I'm sure,
That's from Carl.
encountered this problem in your stand-up career, Frank. A woman who cannot listen. She was very drunk. So everything I said, she responded to.
Oh, yes.
And so about 7 minutes into the show, I had to make a mental note to not say any rhetorical questions at all for the next 90 minutes. So that was quite pressing. But, wonderfully, I did a gig in Kendal and they put Kendal mint cake in the dressing room. which was sweet. Which was sweet. Oh, that was an accidental pun.
Wow.
Accidental
I
pun
saw it in
alert.
slow-mo as it was happening.
They're dropping off you like windfall fruit.
And the same week, I've also done a gig in Harrogate, and they had Harrogate water. Harrogate is a spa town, innit? So it's got water like Bath.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, in the past, I've done a gig in Bath and had bath water, but I don't
No,
like
you
that.
have not.
Bath water seems to me like kids drink bath water, don't they?
Do you mean from the actual spa?
Well, they just have bottled water, and it's called bath water.
There's a proper spa water in Bath that's has the consistency of dog saliva.
Oh, no, I don't want that. But it's given me a brilliant idea for my next tour, because the tour I'm doing is...
You're going to the Virgin Islands.
Is gradually... gradually eking to a finish, but I thought I could book in for next year just places that do food and drink named after the place. Like, you know, I could start the tour in Aberdeen and have steak.
Oh.
And then Arbroath for Arbroath Smokies, you know, the smoked fish.
Oh, yeah.
Delicious.
It's like your Ocado shop, your tour, isn't it?
I'm not just
but
going to go
it's-
I'm just thinking that's probably near, because it's both Scotland, isn't it? I could do them in the same couple of nights.
I think that would be a great idea for a tour. It's a great... Get publicity for it.
Do you think I could turn it into, like, you know, some crazy... I bet Sardinia would be good. I'm not sure I'd make much money with the Italian economy.
They'd be
being as it
crammed
is,
in.
but-
Oh, what about the Black Forest, Frank? Lovely.
Yes. What happened to her?
Steady, I knew. Oh,
Sorry. Yes.
Melton Mowbray. What about a gig in Melton Mowbray, the pork pie?
Oh, yeah.
What about Bakewell in Derbyshire?
Oh,
Oh, lovely.
Cherry Bakewell tart.
yeah.
Which is actually some graffiti I wrote on the Box Fizz tour bus.
Well, it could be a world tour, though. It could be... I could go right to Alaska.
Oh,
Have baked
Harvey's
Alaska.
Bristol Cream, I'll give you a call then. I love
Yeah.
that stuff.
Is that in Bristol?
Well, if it's got Bristol in the name.
It's not in
Just thought it might be
Harvey.
the name of a...
Yeah.
I thought it might be the name of a drink, but that sounds good.
Well, it is the name
Cheddar.
of a drink.
And it's in Bristol.
Yeah. Kendal Mint Cake is the name of a sweet. Sorry
Right.
when you do it.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't know that Harvey's Bristol Cream was a Bristol thing. Like, it could have been a different
What
Bristol.
do you mean? What different Bristol?
I thought it could be
What
like
did
the
you
name
think
of
it
a
was? Breast
croissant.
milk?
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Still in the email corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd like to pop into text T-Junction
Oh, okay.
briefly, if you don't
Nice.
mind. I have a fear of grands, Frank. This is from Yvette in West Brom, who's one of our regulars.
Yvette or
Yeah.
Yvette?
Yvette.
Okay, not a Yvette.
No, not Yvette. I have a fear of grands. My gran used to wake me up to tell me that my mum had just gone out the front door and was never coming back.
What, as a joke?
Well, she also used to carry her wardrobe from one room to another, and she used to roll rugs up and pretend they were her babies.
She sounds like a powerful woman.
But see again, that's a woman who's familiar with the old ways. There'll be something mystical about that rug thing.
We've
Yeah.
also had a text in...
Well, I mean, what if the Cochrane stood on a rolled up one when he was a young
Oh,
child?
I'd have been terrified.
But can I say I like an old nan who's a bit of a bully?
Yeah, well, you know, I think they get to an age, maybe the generation they've grown up in have been a bit oppressed as
Yes.
women, and now they thought, I'll just behave however I like.
Mm.
I went round my gran's once, and it was about 9:30 in the morning. She was eating shepherd's pie. No, is it cottage pie with potato on top?
Oh, yeah.
Cottage pie out of a silver file tray and drinking a bottle of Guinness.
In the morning.
Yeah. And she was like 90 something, and I thought, well, yeah, just do what you like.
Exactly, yeah.
Brilliant.
I went round my gran's once. She's married a Nigerian who was a bigamist. But you know
Really?
that. Well, she had 5 husbands. It was
Oh,
all-
yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, well, there you go, you see. You know, freedom. Enjoy yourself.
I've had
The great thing, I suppose, looking back, is I then started, not long after, drinking early in the morning.
Did you?
Yeah, seems like the family way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas my gran used to have Weetabix just with marmalade spread on top of it, and that's not caught on in my life.
That was her hands. That's what Gran's hands look like.
Oh.
Really?
On the,
that sounds a bit dry.
very dry. On the subject of my world food tour, that I wouldn't be surprised if I've got a book deal on that by the end of the day. Alun could include Craster in Northumberland. I might be mispronouncing that. Craster, home of the Craster Kippers. Do you think it's Craster
Never
or
heard of that.
Craster?
There used to be some fizzy pop called Craster.
No,
You
not
could have
that.
that on you.
It's Cra. CRA.
No, I've never heard of that.
But I've already got Arbroath Smokies. I don't want this tour to be too fishy. I'd like...
I toured with a sound man. And when we walked into every hotel, the first thing he said is, do you know if they do a fin and haddock for breakfast? Every morning, if it was available, he'd have it.
Lovely.
It's those kind of anecdotes that made us Sony rejects. I'm pressing the wrong buttons here. That could have all gone very wrong.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
We've had a text that I think crosses the streams of the two different textings we've got running. Where not only did we ask people about the mugs they own, we also what were you scared of as kids. When I was little, I would never finish a drink from a mug. This was because the reflection that my own face made at the bottom of the mug scared me. Simon Williams from Taunton.
Well, I never finished a cup of tea in our house because we didn't have a strainer.
Oh.
And there was always, like, loads of leaves in the bottom.
It's horrible, that. And we've also had Rick Oliver, a.k.a. 283, who's texted saying, I think Alan should go straight to Turkey and have done with it.
Yes.
Well, I was thinking I should really start the tour in Hungary.
Of course. Mind you, I was in, as I said, Cornwall last week, and obviously I had the pasties and all that. And someone was saying to me, she said, have you done the whole Cornwall thing? One of the local people. And I said, I haven't had a Cornish mivvy. And she said, I've never heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
Never heard of Have you heard of it?
Yes, it's a nice lolly.
Yeah. This is someone from Cornwall, never heard of a Cornish... Oh, it was beautiful.
I've not had.
It was white ice cream with like a red outer case.
An outer case, yeah.
Which bit of Cornwall was that you had that in, and where's the nearest venue?
No, I didn't. It was available nationally. It was an export from Cornwall.
So you're not recommending a place that I should go and tour? I need a sort of an arts centre or comedy club between.
If you played Cornwall, they could find a mivvy. I'm not sure they still exist.
That would be lovely.
Anyway, let me continue the food theme. I had a card from Tony, and it says, "Dear Frank," then there's some praise. It says, I listen to the show on a Saturday morning when I'm dialysising at Guy's dialysis ward. And that's Guy's being a hospital.
Yes.
It's not like a 70s hospital for men, like the Guys. It's not that. So he's dialysising, Tony. And he says, enjoy the gift. And what he sent me is a pickle fork.
How marvellous.
You know, I was talking about the difficulty I've been having getting pickled onions out of a jar.
Yeah.
You talk of little else.
Yeah, and then your hands smell of vinegar, and it says on here, trigger spring action for easy release.
Oh, I've got one of those at home.
good.
Have you got one of these?
No, but I've got one.
And what a lovely present. So you stick it in, and then there's like a little platform that pushes the thing up. I don't even have to touch the pickled onion.
The number of times you've said if people send you free stuff, you'll smash it up, but not now. Oh,
no, but
goodness,
I didn't ask for
over
this.
the moon.
This was just a lovely gesture, and I think it's great. Thank you very much, Tony. He also thanks me for introducing him to the band Public Service Broadcasting, which is, you see, I'm changing the world here.
Frank
Skinner
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean, Alan Cochrane. You can text us on 81215 or follow us on Twitter at Frank on the Radio. I run out of breath and then I forgot I've got to go to the website. Or if you want to email us, you can go to the website and Absolute Radio website. I could give you the slash. Who on earth ever?
Contact.
Whoever typed in the address? The last time you did that, you just Google it.
We've had a text in, Frank. 474. Hi, I'm a black cab driver, and I clocked you all looking shifty outside the Hawksmoor last night.
Oh, yeah, we had a works outing last night.
What concerned me was Alan's turn-up trousers. If One Direction are ever recruiting, then he has to be in with a shout. That's from Paul.
Yeah, it was a bit
Hi,
Dr.
Paul.
Fox.
They're actually a dark jean, and yes, they did have a turn up. I thought I pitched it really well. It wasn't a smart do. I didn't wear a suit. I went suit. I went jeans.
I wore a suit and tie. Can I point that out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wore a jean,
I wore a jean.
but I had good hair.
A Smedley shirt, Clark's Originals leather desert boots, and a nice Reese jacket.
We should say-
No pants.
No pants.
Oh.
I'm
say-
Richard Madeley.
In fact, it was a bit too Ronnie's sketch or Terry Scott's sitcom. It was Dinner with the Bosses.
It was,
Wasn't
yes.
it?
But it was a
Miyake.
very lovely night.
Bit too Ronnie's when.
But I'll never eat bone marrow again.
You got your bottom pinched as soon as you arrived,
Yeah,
didn't
you
you?
know, my body actually rejected the bone marrow. Yes, I walked in and Emily wasn't there. Emily did the Jeff Lloyd show last night. Very well. I say that because... do you remember Celebrity Squares? There used to be an American
No, half my
version of
family
that.
were on it.
There was a leprechaun. There was an American version. There used to be a gay man who sat in the central square, and they once said to him that... Well, the question was, do chimpanzees kiss? And he said, yes, very well. So I always really liked. Yeah, I walked in and there was the gang sitting at the table, and suddenly, I mean, it wasn't a pinch; it was a proper deep probing grab at my behind.
Oh my goodness!
If I'd known before, I would have brought a rubber glove. And I thought it would be a friend of mine messing about. It was a complete stranger, a woman. And, yeah.
How dare she? That's my job.
You're speaking to your lawyers immediately. Weren't
Well,
you?
I didn't know. I mean, I hope she wasn't planning to eat. I mean, there was bread on the table, but I thought, it was a bit more. I mean, if a man did that to a female celebrity in a restaurant, but anyway, people get drunk. That's how they get through life.
It's a
Okay,
coping strategy, isn't
it
it?
is. That's all it is.
I wonder if we should sashay onto a story that I'm sure is an area of interest of yours. Headline: Star Wars and Doctor Who fans clash at Norwich Convention.
I read about this.
I mean,
yes.
I'm not calling you a dork, but you'd be interested in
I'm
this.
just saying it's a
battle
glamour.
of
It's
the
a glamour
dorks.
fixture for you.
It
Yeah, there
really
was.
is.
It was a fight, wasn't it? Well, I don't know if it was a physical fight,
Well-
but it was trouble.
Well, yeah,
What'll go on, Al?
Can I
the
ask?
police were called.
Oh, go on.
The police were called, weren't they? I don't know if there was a fight.
Star Wars and Doctor Who, Whovians.
And
Yes.
And there's Dominic Warner, secretary of Norwich Star Wars Club, said it's been blown up as if it was a fight. There was no fighting, which to me sounds a bit like these are not the droids you're looking for. There was no fighting, and he's airbrushing the past there, as far as I'm concerned. He's
Okay.
doing a Jedi mind trick on us.
Do you think there was a gal affray?
Oh,
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Do you get that?
don't know if I.
So
get
what happened? They turned up.
I
but
tried
they
to
were
do it
having-
with Star Wars, but the best I could come up with was GBH Kenobi, which is rubbish.
It needs a bit more work, that one, darling.
That's just rubbish.
But you're trying, and I
You could
respect
have,
that.
No, you couldn't. Someone will send one.
It was a convention. It was the Norwich Sci-Fi and Film Convention,
Brilliant.
which
I'm
is.
finding it
I always
difficult
say,
as well because
lock up your daughters, ladies, when they're getting together. Frankly,
But you know that thing that.
Yeah, but people, can I say, I have to stop this.
Go on,
People
let's get
always
it out
say
of your
that
system.
about sci-fi fans. They
Yeah.
just, they haven't got a girlfriend and all that.
I didn't say they didn't have a girlfriend.
But there's a suggestion of that.
Just
wasn't
look at her. Sorry.
But I'm just saying that people who have lots of casual relationships, move about, and sexual beings, are they generally nice, interesting people? I think not.
Right.
Whereas the sci-fiers I meet, bright, sharp, interesting people. Like, that's serious.
I don't
Yeah.
want to be on my own with them though for long periods of time.
You're
One of
gonna
them
stop.
said. I liked the guy that you were referring to earlier from the Norwich Sci-Fi Convention. He
These
said,
are not the droids you're looking
yes.
for.
He also said, look, we're all in the same boat here. I love his acknowledgement that they're all saying, look, we're all in the same boat here.
He may as well have said bit of the Venn diagram.
But I had a fight in Norwich once. I think it's not.
Did you?
Don't blame sci-fi.
Did you?
Blame Norfolk. It's because there's no hills to hide behind. You have to take.
He's suggesting don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, it's it's a very that's it. It's flat, so you just have to toe to toe it.
Oh, it was
Joe?
obviously a Darth brawl.
Is that what
Very good.
R2D2 looking at me.
I have to say, but there was no good headlines that I saw for it. No, there must be 1,000,001. Maybe that'd be a good text in headlines for this story.
End It Like Beckham was a good headline, I thought, yesterday.
That's
Somebody
a good
went
one.
for-
Yes.
Yeah.
But, well, not if it was for the sci-fi battle story.
Yeah, they got the wrong story. Clerical error.
That'd be absolute rubbish.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Now, I'll tell you what, on the subject of the flat terrain in East Anglia,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember who said this to me, but we're talking about not remembering stuff from school, and this guy said, but I bet you know what an oxbow lake is and how it was formed. And I do remember that from geography. I remember
Yes,
that.
I remember an oxbow lake.
And hummocks, I
I don't know
remember.
about hummocks.
They're small hills.
Oh.
And we were talking about what you remember from school, and it's really not much, but there's one or two facts for no apparent
Yes.
reason.
So how are oxbow lakes formed? I remember the name of oxbow lakes, but I'm just picturing a lake in my head. I don't know the formation.
It was very hard to explain without a diagram. But they're a loop that gradually, a loop in a river that gradually wears away, to put it in simple terms.
Oh, okay.
But I also remember the passage of a solution into a less soluble solution through a semi-permeable membrane, which is osmosis.
You're listening to
remember that.
Absolute Science.
I think it's interesting what we remember, though.
It is.
So I forgot, 99.74%.
Absolute
Yeah.
maths.
Yeah, that's what I've learnt. Yes,
Paul McIntyre says, beat me up, Scotty. That's what happened at the Sci-Fi Convention punch-up.
that's good.
See,
I like
I've-
beat me up, Scotty.
I found the whole article quite difficult to read because my mate told me that there's an acronym for Norwich, which is knickers off ready when I come home,
Oh,
and
yes.
people say it. And
People used to write it on envelopes.
did they?
Yeah.
But it just when it's like a Doctor Who Norwich convention, it just makes me think, oh, there's something.
But I can't remember the last time no one uses knickers off ready when I come home anymore.
Or
It's
men.
not even. I mean, I used to have a problem with the K. There's obviously a silent K at the front of
Oh yeah, hadn't even
Jabber me
noticed
gut.
that.
228.
Jabber me guts.
Jabber me gut.
Jabber.
Jab.
It's like Jabber the
jab.
Heart, but it's just jabber me
yes,
gut.
I'm with you. I'll tell you what I want, before we go this week, I want to talk about our spiritual colleague in radio. From Radio
Paula
Stoke.
White?
Yes.
Oh, I want to talk of nothing else.
Because in case you don't know, this was a woman from Radio Stoke who was doing not her last show, it was her last show in the daytime
I think it's her last show now.
And I don't know if it was ever established, but she sounded drunk, let's say that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think she sort of admitted it. Well, she did say
Oh,
at one.
did she?
She said, "I've had a few drinks." She said, "I've had a couple of drinks. I'm not drunk."
Yeah, well, we've all said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but anyone who says I'm not drunk is generally drunk.
Almost
FYI.
always.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I listened to a bit of her show, and you'll have to help me out with this. There's a thing she said, we're going to party today, P.A.R.T.Y, because I said so.
Yeah.
So she made the last letter Y, as in why the... Now, is that something is that a cliche? Or is
No,
that
that
something...
subtlety was lost on me. She just kept saying party.
No, she said P.A.R.T.Y because I said so. And I thought, the people are rubbishing this woman because they think she's drunk. But I bet you 90%, I'm not including Christine O'Connell, of the people that won Sony's last week would have never said anything that clever on radio.
That level of wordplay.
Yeah. I was listening to a radio station the day, which isn't this one, and the bloke said, as an interesting fact in the paper today, that teenage girls, the average teenage girl, over the space of a year, has 157 arguments with friends. And I thought, well, that is quite an interesting thing to... He said, anyway, moving on, we've got blah, but I never mentioned it again.
Oh.
Is that good? Paula would have related the 157 rows she'd had that year. I think. Well, you're looking at me. If I said something really wrong. Is it just a boring bit? I don't mind.
No, you know what it is? It's just
I don't
a
mind
rather...
if it's just a boring bit,
it's
but
just
don't
a
look at me
rather
like I've said I
unique-
accidentally swore.
It's a unique take on things, I think.
No, I thought, Paul, this show sounded better, much better than your average radio show.
Yeah,
when she was
good.
She was completely blotto. I think we should sign her up.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
We were talking about Paula White earlier, the Radio Stoke DJ.
Yeah.
I'm not keen to promote another brand, but she is in the news. She's a news figure now. And you were saying that you thought it was rather clever construction, the way she'd said, we're going to P.A.R.T.Y because I want to, or something.
Because I said so.
Because I said so.
I thought that was clever.
025 has texted us and explained it's from The Mask. He says, I believe the character is called Stanley Ipkiss. He says P.A.R.T.Y because I got her.
The Mask is the one with
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, yeah. Oh, so she just copied something.
Which is a drugs metaphor, that film as well.
I've gone off her.
Have you?
She deserves to lose her job. So,
I'll tell you what I didn't like. She was taken off air after half an hour, and then the colleague that took over said, "Oh, she's not feeling well and has gone home."
Yeah.
I thought that was a bit unnecessary to then make the listeners picture her at home. I just think it's not even true, is it? She went to the nearest all-bar one.
We don't know that.
I would guess that she
Can I
got some
say?
extra drinking time.
These are allegations. You may not even have been drinking. It can be one of those cases where you have a small sherry and you're on antibiotics.
At one point, she explains what carte blanche meant,
Did
which
she?
is my favourite bit in the whole broadcast. She goes, I'm going carte blanche. I'll tell you what carte blanche is. You can choose anything.
Is it when you give a lift to someone from the Golden Girls?
I would
That
say
was poor.
I would say about 80% of radio would be improved with slightly drunk presenters, surely.
Yeah.
Well,
And I'm not just meaning this show.
funny you should say that.
Are
Because
you building up
once,
to something?
Yeah. I've had a few.
Do you remember that, Frank? We found a wine glass in the studio.
Oh,
Don't you
yeah.
remember that? It was in the early days.
Yeah, but maybe they're just
Early.
one of those people who have a glass of wine with a meal.
It also says
What? With breakfast?
Yeah.
it also says her last contribution was a rambling account of how she has lost over a stone in weight, and there's the answer, innit? She's lost over a
yeah.
stone. You know, we've all had a drink on an empty stomach, and it's gone right to our. She's probably barely eaten for a month.
Well, I always used to say something.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's only gluttons that eat and drink.
Is that when you just drank rather than eat?
Yeah, exactly. I think other people's... I agree with you about the radio. Other people's drunkenness really entertaining if you've got an on-off switch.
Yeah.
It would...
That's
I
good to
think
remember.
It would improve all sorts of things. I have to say, I once came so close to destroying my entire career. You know, and I would have been an innocent man, but I was doing the one show,
Oh yeah.
and the one show, you know, being like a sort of a, was it 6 million viewers, whatever, and have I told this before? And the researchers said, we're just going to rehearse the opening. So I went on, and I thought we were rehearsing, and often when you're rehearsing, you're messing about, you might swear in a heavy-duty way.
Oh, no.
So I was all set to, to do something like that, and then after about 30 seconds, it started to dawn on me that this was actually the show. But that could have been
Yeah.
a career, and no one would have believed me. Let's face it.
Can we sort of linger in email corner?
We can pop back.
Can we?
Let's pop back.
Lovely. This is from Omar. Hi, Frank, Emily and Lecoq. Lecoq was discussing revising and listening to talk radio on your last show. Alan suggested that listening to talk radio whilst revising can be distracting, and it's better to listen to music instead, as you already
Wise
know the
words.
songs being played.
Yeah,
think it
wise
is.
words.
Having been a student for far too long, I would recommend... Might be Omar Sharif. Oh, might not be with us.
Is he still a student? Only of backgammon.
I would recommend that listening to talk radio is not distracting if the language they are speaking is not one you know. Whilst revising, I would listen to French sports radio, and as I didn't understand what they were saying, I wasn't distracted. Hearing them speaking their foreign language...
Oh, lovely.
A little bit racist.
It's,
out of my
I blame UKIP.
out of my tinny iPad speakers made me feel like I was in company and not alone, whilst I would be hunched over my table with books all around. Love the show. You're fabulous, Emily. Omar.
Don't say you're fabulous, Emily, like we're not here.
Can I just say, Omar, that is outrageously sweet of you. I heard Joan Collins say that once.
Outrageously
How
sweet.
outrageously sweet of you.
And that reminds me a bit when I was walking up Tottenham Court Road with David Baddiel, and this girl came up to me and said, oh, sorry, have you got a pen? And I said, yeah. And I gave her the pen and she asked for Dave's autograph.
Oh.
People can be very cruel.
They can. I used to listen, when I was writing, I used to listen to French singers, like, Serge Gainsbourg,
Oh, yeah.
P.F. I Am. You know I Am, the hip-hop, French hip. That was the first rap I ever listened to, was French rap.
Really?
So it used to be, I didn't like rap at all. I used to feel, if I want bad poetry, I'll buy a greetings card. But then I got into it through French.
Yeah.
I would play a clip, but I don't know if they're cussing, you see, because I don't know the
Turn
language.
bleu.
And exactly. And sometimes with the rappers, they've got a bit of a mouth on them.
Oh, they have.
Yeah.
Ted and Dorking is also, we were talking about where that came from, P.A.R.T.Y. We said it was the mask. Ted and Dorking says, no, thrice nay, he says.
Oh, okay.
It's the goodbye song from the Mickey Mouse show with Annette Funcionello. M-I-C, see you real soon. K-E-Y, why? Because we like you.
You know what? It's certainly, that's the...
M-O-U-S-E.
That's the root of it, I think.
As regards revising whilst listening to French sports radio, surely that's distracting, though, because you'd hear the French, and I don't know enough French to do it, but, like, the presumably the English words would pop out and distract you, so it'd be like, ho, David Beckham, ho,
I'm not
Joey
happy. I don't know about you.
Barton.
I'm not happy with ho.
I just said I don't know any French words to do, so I can't do it convincingly.
That was a bit UKIP, wasn't it?
It wasn't. It wasn't a bit...
Ho.
It's fine, isn't it?
No, it sounds like
I
a
don't know
vintage
the
car
rules.
rally.
Frank
Skinner.
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
Come on, don't have a silence. We'll go
No,
off
I'm
the
not going
air.
to have a silent. Well, it's appropriate because I'd like to talk about something rather spiritual,
Oh, lovely.
which is Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes.
Gandhi Corner, I'm calling this.
Get on. Well, of course, we should have music that goes Gandhi. That would have been perfect, but we don't have it.
I
sing
have
it.
to say, Gandhi is a borderline OC crush of mine.
Oh, really?
I
Is
read
he?
My Experiments with Truth, his autobiography. I recommend it heartily.
Oh, really? You know, I've often thought I'd like to read a book about Gandhi, and I looked at that and I thought, you can't trust an autobiography. What I want is an unofficial biography.
It's no
that shows Gandhi warts and all.
It's no Don't Tell Kath, don't get me wrong,
No.
but it's good. But there was a story this week. It turns out he's sort of more famed for his footwear even than I am, like, because his shoes, his Gandhi's flip-flops, they're selling for 15k. Good use of K there at auction, they reckon.
reckon they might
You
get
mean
15.
an actual individual pair? I
Yeah.
thought you meant like there was
Yeah.
No,
there was a brand.
and
Like Bjorn Borg's underwear.
Yeah, like Beckham's
like
underwear.
Beckham's Gandhi's flip-flop, and they've discovered that he had a little extra half-inch, a little Noel Edmonds lift on the flip-flop.
Are you
Was
allowed
he-
to say that about Noel Edmonds? Is that allowed?
I think it's out there.
That'll be fine. Is it? She knows him. He's a short man. Then I think
He was
to be-
5'4", Mahatma.
Was he really?
Mohandas.
You see that?
Apparently.
Interesting, isn't it? Because Mother Teresa was 4'10".
Really?
Right.
All these little
You wishing you'd
people.
set them up?
You're saying they'd have made a lovely looking couple?
Well, I'm saying all these little people promoting peace on a slightly lower belt level, so that we don't know until it's too late.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
The man.
How tall was Stalin?
Oh, I don't know.
I think
Okay.
he was tall.
He strikes
He
me-
went the other way, I think.
Did he? He did. He didn't
I
promote.
suppose that was Gandhi's choice. Do I promote
Gandhi's
peace and
choice
wear
would
the
have been
little...
that would be a great film.
Yeah. I love the idea of him clicking around in them like a slight North London nana. I love that.
Well, what I like about the idea of him having this sort of extra little ledge on his on his sandal is that they lift him up the way that the love of the people must have lifted him
Yeah.
up spiritually. What I'm saying is that love is like Gandhi on a shelf. Love is like Gandhi on a shelf. Da, da, da,
I
da,
loved
da,
it. You
da.
then had a feeling you were going to burst into song. And
And I thought, how am I going to save this? That was what I was... Inside, that's what was going through me.
I'll tell you who should buy them, though, when they do come up at auction. The model, Gandhi.
Oh, yeah.
David Gandy.
They've probably already got his name in them. It'd be fine.
yeah.
You see, if
They'll have to
Gandhi,
spare money.
if the Mahatma, Bapu, if he looked like David Gandhi,
Yeah.
I think he'd have been an unsuccessful peace protester.
You think?
Well, I always, have been envious of the beautiful people of the world. But in fact, there's lots of jobs they can't do. He'd be a rubbish peace protester. And I've always said that if Laurel and Hardy looked like David Beckham and, say, Gandhi, they wouldn't have got any laughs at all.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
One plus, of course, of Gandhi's sandals is that because he was a very thin man, all those hunger strikes, they wouldn't have took that much. You wouldn't want to buy the sandals of whichever personality sits in the fat chair now. I don't know who that would be. But
also people are funny about second-hand shoes, aren't they? I'm surprised that
Quite
they keep
rightly.
15 grand's worth of value.
Well, the
I think
auctioneer,
that's
the
all
man from the
'cause they're
auction
Gandhi.
house, he said they're not in the best condition. As if that would put a potential buyer off. It's not eBay.
I like the fact that he's being honest, though.
I'd like a little bit of Gandhi's belongings.
Yeah, there's apparently £250,000 worth of archive material of Gandhi's up for sale, which I think is what he would have wanted, isn't it? Somebody making a profit out of it.
Glasses. Is there any glasses in there?
Oh, good.
I quite fancy a pair of those.
Gandhi glasses.
Yeah, those
Is
little
it
round
alliteration?
Gandhi
I can get you
Enjoy.
some of those from Camden, love. Don't worry.
But they won't be his, will they?
We've had a text in on the subject of my food tour, Kendal mint cake, etc. Nip to Pontefract and have some Pontefract cakes.
Perfect.
And they're not actually cakes, they're sweets,
They
aren't
are. They're like toffees.
She said it's the home of Haribo sweets. Then have a Yorkshire pudding in every Yorkshire town, just have a different filling. That's good advice from Danielle there. I could
Danielle's put a bit of thought.
I could do
Yeah.
Leeds and Bradford, and I wouldn't have to eat the same thing. I could have, different stuff in the Yorkshire pudding.
Surely everywhere has got some sort of food stuff.
Oh,
hasn't it?
apparently not Bristol, though.
Not named
Oh,
after
no.
it. I still I don't identify Bristol with a Harvey's Bristol cream. I just don't. Am I meant to? Like, do other people think? Anyway, we need to talk about Kanye West. Is
we're
a
running out of
sentence
time,
I
but let
always
me-
say on this show. I feel
What,
like
because he walked into a sign.
he's had a week.
Man walked into a bar.
He's had a week of it. He walked into a sign and got a right old bump on his head, and also his expensive car got trapped in the security gates on the way into the
It's kind
same
of brilliant. I
building.
mean, he's a man. I imagine he's a man who can laugh at himself.
Do you think so? The pictures did not appear to show that trait.
Anyone else who'd done that, I think, would have said, "Oh God, look, I really laughed about it." Like when Neil
Yeah.
Kinnock fell over on the beach and that.
He got angry.
If you're
Oh.
super cool rapper, dressed head to foot in black leather,
Yeah.
and you hit your head, it's a difficult position to
On
be
a
in.
sign that says "Beware pedestrians."
Do you know what
or
I like,
whatever
Frank?
it was.
He was wearing an interesting sartorial choice, a coach driver. You know those short-sleeved
yeah, is that what
shirts.
they're
I call them a
called?
coach
Oh, yeah.
driver. But he'd gone for leather.
I know,
So it was
a
a leather coach driver.
A leather short sleeve.
See, I looked at that and thought that's too sunny a day for a leather shirt.
Well, leather trousers was my thought.
He must have been schwitzing.
Oh,
Yes.
was he? I don't know him that well.
I don't know what that means, but I love the sound
Is
of
he a
it.
keen blogger?
I walked into one in Africa, a wooden overhang, when I was with Comic Relief, helping in very impoverished village, and people really up against it, and I hit my head really hard on a wooden overhang, and the entire village laughed. I thought that's the last penny you get out of me. No, it was lovely, actually. Just, you always, because there's a tendency, isn't it, to think, oh, these poor people. But they still laughed at somebody banging their head.
Oh, good.
That was great. And eventually I laughed as well after a bit of cussing. But Kanye, lighten up, that's what I'd say to him. What about that? He didn't even have... It was bright sunshine, he didn't have shades on. Probably the only time he's ever not worn shades in his life.
Yeah.
When he shouted
And
at
he
the
blamed the
photographers.
photographer. He said, "Look, if you just stop taking photos, man."
Yeah, he said
Yeah.
that with swearing.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, but that's not going to work, is it? Because they're not going to stop taking photos. In fact, getting angry is a way of making them continue taking photos off.
Thank you so much for listening. mucho apreciatum. And as we say in the Catholic Church. And if the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. And now get out.
This is
Frank Skinner.